Okay, time is 12 Central European Time. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Ylva Svensson, and I am delighted to welcome you to today's WoTA Webinar, Racing for Attention. On behalf of World Tote Association, I thank you for taking the time to join us. It's great to see so many participants around the world has joined and tuned in. So one of WoTA's key objectives are to create opportunities and knowledge sharing and collaboration across the industry. By bringing together perspectives, experiences around the world, we can help members to better navigate opportunities, challenges facing our industry today. And I think today's topic can't hardly be more relevant in a world where we as people and consumers have endless entertainment choices. Attention has become a valuable and contested resource. Just look at myself a couple of years ago. I can dive in for hours and hours in books. Today, I can hardly read one page until I have to check the weather or some results or, scrolling for any other news. So I think this is extremely relevant for everyone, not only for the young people, also for ourselves from an older generation back. So also want to say that this webinar is also a broader initiative from WoTA going forward, where we are going to have more external inspiration. And we will have coming up several webinars coming up this fall with external speakers. So I'm very delighted today to have an outstanding panel of speakers, and I would like to thank them very much in advance for taking the time. With that, I would like to hand it over to our moderator, the excellent Thorsten Castle. Take it away, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Ylva Svensson, and on behalf of WETSTA, one member of the WoTA, welcome, very warm welcome to this webinar. I think you already told us a lot of topics for this day, and I just want to tell everybody, if you want to have, after this webinar, all the informations we give you and that panel speakers give you, we'll have the chance to send you the handouts by demand, as well as today's webinar will be streamed on YouTube a few days after today. So I think that might be interesting, maybe to share with colleagues which are not able to be with us today. So talking about attention, I think the most attention in these days will get the guys who sell air conditioning. Unfortunately, we don't do that. So we have horse racing, and what Ylva already said, the most important thing for me personally by WoTA is that we have the opportunity to share our experience, to share the newest ideas of the future, and to learn from each other. I think that's the most exciting part of WoTA on behalf of WETSTA's side of the future. So let me introduce our panel speakers today. Daniel Alinder, he's the CEO of Vindral, very well known for a lot of us. We love to have you, Daniel. We'll talk about at the beginning speed and infrastructure, next generation life experience. I think that will be very interesting because attention comes along with technology, and so that's your part. Next will be Martin Wiklund, the founder and CEO of Sportswik. Martin, warm welcome on behalf of everyone here. We'll talk about fan engagement, community, which is, I think, very, very interesting, and mobile-first sports consumption. And the last but not least is Adam Benz, founder and principal consultant of AB Apex Advisory, media reinvention and digital audience strategy. That's something we're looking forward, Adam, to hear from you. Most importantly, we will have after each and every one of you a short or maybe longer, we'll see Q&A. So if you want to ask questions, everyone, please feel free. I think we have a few questions after that to discuss also, and that might help us to come along with the new ideas. So Racing for Attention, that's the title of this webinar, and I hand over to Daniel Alinder. Daniel, we're happy to have you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to start by pressing this button to share my screen. I guess you're all seeing what I'm sharing here. I'm Daniel, work with Vindral, as was mentioned earlier. And it is a bit of a special thing talking about innovation and technology. What you need to do is try to talk about the technology, the things that the technology supports, not just talk about the technology. I'll start just by introducing a little bit of what we do. But then I'm going to go into examples and trying to share a little bit of the things that we see in the market because the technology is just a supporting layer. In short, we're a video company, or video and audio. So everything we do is audio visual. Everything we do is in real time. So what you see right now in the presentation is just the two legs that our business is resting on, which is Vindral Live, a live streaming solution for low latency and sync, but also maintaining high quality. It is a bit of from a tech perspective, it's the hard trifecta to maintain. And then we have Vindral Composer, which is a compositing software that basically does it. You can apply effects to video in real time. You see the word AI mentioned here, graphics and AI. AI features to change things about a video stream. I'll go into a little bit of examples to make that more concrete later, but also audio. So those are our main areas of focus. But I would like to just go back to when I personally got into the video space, which was in 2017. I joined this company, Vindral, and the then CEO said, "There's somebody I want you to meet." There was a POC running with ATG in Sweden. And he said, I'd like you to meet Micke Kudren, who was running the ATG X Labs at that time, and a person that inspired a lot of the change that we are seeing in the space. And one thing that left the lasting impression from those early meetings was Micke, as we know, his perspective was always about a great interest in technology, but that was not the thing. The thing was always how could the viewer experience be improved? So when I got on board in December 2017, I got to meet this person. Okay, there's a POC running with low latency streaming, and a few months later at Elitloppet 2018, that was used to showcase in race betting for the first time that I'd ever seen it. And it was highly unique in 2018 to do something of that kind. And it's not just about the streaming. Some of the underlying technologies that were needed to make that even viable as a POC was, for example, generation of live odds. Like, how do you make that reliably? So the technology part was huge, a huge challenge in it. So fast forward many years now until 2026, a lot has happened with how the viewer experience is in horse racing. So this was one of the key interactions that we had with ATG, and for me personally with live streaming. And from there, we have expanded. We launched within iGaming, and then we've expanded into many different industries. And the aim is to give a little bit of a glimpse of, okay, so what do we see? What types of trends do we often hear mentioned by our customers? I'll get right to it because I see that time is already flowing away. Um, the first one that is often mentioned is social, and it ties into so many things. There could be many words for describing the phenomenon that I'm talking about, but um, one of the things is not, I mean, the most natural example is many of our customers, they put a chat next to the stream, for example. And already when doing that, you need to know that the people that are chatting about it are seeing the same thing at the same time. There's also a phenomenon called co-watching, which is very interesting. And I'd say it started in the younger generation, where even regardless of whether it's a game, it's a show, it's a race, people get on a call on a platform like Discord, for example. One person streams their screen and everybody's watching the same thing at the same time. And the social layer becomes part of the experience. That's the important thing. The important thing is not what platforms are they using. It just needs to work in a sense, and it needs to work well. But the experience that they get is that they're actually doing something together, and they're actually making memories together. They're sharing experiences. And then there's for example, when it comes to games, trying to do predictions, trying to say, well, I bet you $100 that this is what's going to happen next, or yeah, those types of things. I'll go a little bit more into it further on. Thing number two, movement, which is huge within racing and in all types of sports currently, is something called, it has many names, but it's multi-angle is it's something that has emerged and is just now becoming standard for many experiences. And for example, there's been a lot of attention around Formula One that have the onboard cameras where you can just switch views. The gist is that you deliver it's not just one produced channel. Sometimes for a particular viewer, the unproduced channel, the unproduced feed can be the most interesting thing. If I'm following a certain team in a race, maybe that's the only thing that I really care about. So I'd say multi-angle is a huge movement that we see. We also see a lot of data becoming integrated into streams. And this is perhaps the widest one, because this is you see the screenshot from SailGP that are putting data on the boats, and also like where's the finish line, etc. But there's also ways of using data that you can extract from video to enhance the video. I'm going to show you a little bit of that later. And there's also video services are becoming better. Video platforms are becoming better at creating stickiness, at creating the community experience, and that whether it's a gamified experience that is around the longer you watch, you get maybe a reward in the game that you're watching, etc. You gather points. It's so much more than just the video that you're consuming. And I'd say in this regard, esports is the industry that has gotten furthest. So the esports industry has been the industry that's driving this and showing others how to go. It is getting traction in others as well, which I'll also mention a little bit later. So just to give a few examples of some of the things that we've been involved in. You've already seen the screenshots that I showed earlier, but I'd like to outline SailGP because this was an award-winning, it's won multiple awards, for example, in the Sports Pro Media Awards category of streaming. What they do, and this may be hard to see on a small image here, but what we're showing here is our multi-viewer being used to select what you'd like to see. And the viewer experience is actually just you get all the camera angles, and you get to choose what you want to see. Many of the viewers are at the venue. So they go to Bahamas or wherever the race is currently, and they watch, perhaps from the shore, they watch the race, but they have a boat cam on their telephone. And their one important thing becomes, well, I'm rooting for a certain team. I'd like to see that, but I'm also at the race, so I'd like to see the whole race. There's big screens at the venue displaying everything in sync. And also, as you see top right here, there's a data feed as well with some live metrics, and everything needs to be coherent. So keeping everything in sync is very important. But this is also one of the strongest cases for multi-angle streaming, which is very different from just providing a produced world feed, which they're of course also doing. Then, as I mentioned earlier, I'm trying to speed through these to not take up all the time. I could talk about this forever. Another thing worth mentioning, I outlined earlier that data used within streams is something that that is also a trend. Here you have an example of where we are extracting data from computer vision with Vindral Composer. In this case, it's rotational data with just seeing how the wheel is rotating. And in reality, there's actually nothing on the wheel. It's all just generated inside of our software. And this can naturally extend to any type of content. It doesn't have to be a Wheel of Fortune experience. As you see here, when it's stripped away, it's just a little studio with some green screen. But the things you can do we mentioned AI. In this case, it's computer vision and a visual recognition module that makes this possible. There's also use cases where we use AI to isolate speech. Now we're talking audio, to isolate speech within a stream. So that, for example, SVT, the Swedish public broadcaster, for the Winter Games, when they produced it, they used that feature to decide how much ambient noise they want in the stream. So getting better audio doesn't necessarily require hardware either. So in some cases, it's about adding awesome effects and flair, and in some cases, it's just about improving quality. And the width of the things you could do within racing with these types of technologies it goes without saying that it should be explored. Another example, just recently started working with Wilds that launched a brand called Beast. They broadcast sports and also, for example, MMA fights. They actually arrange some of the sports themselves, where viewers have a social behavior around it. So it's not just about esports. And one thing that people maybe don't think about is what happens if I have a wildly successful event. And that's also a thing in racing where you get surges of crowds. I mean, we've seen the traffic patterns on racing. We know that whenever there's a race jump coming, you see the curve go upward in viewers. And if there 200,000 people arrive at the same time, they're not there to be impressed by the fact that the service actually held up. But that's a technical thing that you need to take into consideration. So redundancy, capacity, and scale are some of the things that become very important. We are also very proud. I'm not going to speak for Martin because he's here today. We are very proud. Just wanted to mention we're working with Sportswik and proud of the things that they're doing to democratize sports. And an honorable mention of something that we're actually not working with. But again, I like to mix in some personal things from time to time. I'm a huge consumer of Twitch. Watch gaming content a lot, and I'm proud of it. And they are likely the service that have set the best example of how to make a sticky community. When you earn channel points on a stream from the streamer that you are loyal to, and they're bespoke for that specific streamer, and there's badges, and you can buy little bits to reward the streamer for doing good content, or even get them to do something on the stream that you would like to see. Those types of things are so much more than the video, and they rest on some heavy investments in technology, but they make the experience so much more. Where you could just be watching a gaming stream, but it's not about just that. It's about the community and the fact that you're a fan. And then naturally, wouldn't go without mentioning that we're working with the ATG and Vetstar and also TAS Racing in Tasmania. Very proud of that. And there, it's more of two things that are the important pillars that we are aiming to achieve. One thing is that it's about fairness and the betting window that are both served well by the fact that you can go sub-second latency if you want, and everybody's kept in sync. We've heard when we started working with ATG, actually, it was explained to us that some of the hype hunters, they actually had people at the tracks with a telephone calling so that could look at the state of the horse or the shape of the horse to see how it's whether it will be a reliable bet to take or not. To get closer to the race jump to place your bets, that's no longer a thing that you need to do. And we've also had heard examples of tracks where there's drones flying up and doing their own streams, etc. So extending the betting window leads to more confidence, leads to fairness, but also the promise of doing in-race betting with low latency is something that's definitely on the table. And I've mentioned this many times that it's just again, if you can get 500 milliseconds of latency, if you make sure that everybody's within 100 milliseconds of sync, that's not going to matter to the viewers, but that's going to be what you need to do to make many of these things possible. So I think I've taken up quite a lot of time, tried to keep a high tempo, but that's my, yeah, thank you.
And thank you so much. I think there might be a few questions until the first question pops up. One thing I'm very interested in is multi-angle. I saw that from the Hong Kong Jockey Club, and they have a lot of success with this. Actually, you need huge technology for that and huge infrastructure. Do you have, beside of the Hong Kong Jockey Club, also for horse racing experience with the multi-angle?
I'm thinking about if there's any cases where we've seen it in horse racing. I would spontaneously say no. We have helped in producing some 360 streams for ATG earlier. I'm not sure how sticky those became though, but that was one thing that was dabbled in a bit.
Okay, but that might be interesting because, like what I said, Hong Kong Jockey Club, they have a huge success with that. So that each and every bettor can see his horse, for example, walking from the stud to the racing gate and so on. And Twitch, as you mentioned, you have a huge personal interest. Actually, we are working on Twitch since 1.5 years and trying to develop it step by step. And it might be interesting to hear if you think that is something which is possible for us to get new customers, really young customers, interested in horse racing.
That could definitely be, because I think the format, I think there's so much promise in horse racing as a social experience. I think that's the main thing worth pointing out. What we did when we started working with horse racing is we actually put a lot of bets in ourselves, and we used the ATG service called Tillsammans. And one person made the game, and we all bought shares in it. The thing that happened then in our Slack channel was a lot of activity during the race, and I really think that the format lends itself very well to it. And naturally, you need to. I understand that for horse racing, there's a lot of tradition, and there's a need to look into how can we attract younger crowds. I think it's definitely worth experimenting, and there are also some questions like what some of the things that Twitch does is you can actually maybe not in all regions actually, but you can. When you earn channel points, for example, I'm going very concrete here. When you earn channel points, you watch a certain stream, you earn points with that channel. Then you can use those points to bet on outcomes or to vote for things, for example. And if that would be possible to open up for that, I mean, naturally, there's a business logic at the foundation of a company such as a horse racing company, but this is also something that could be worth exploring because there's no money involved in that type of a thing, but the fun is still there, like predicting what is actually going to happen, and you root for a specific horse or a jockey, and
yeah, it might be the
that could be
first.
great.
Yeah, and it might be the first step for younger folks to come deeper into it, and we'll have
For sure.
fan engagement, for example, with Martin in a few moments. So, yeah, that's interesting. Actually, we have over 20 participants right now, so maybe there's another question or from Ilver. So feel free, just give us a sign, and we'll hand over to Daniel your question. Right now, it's very silent. Everybody is looking like I do, for example, for data augmented pictures, which is also very interesting because you have like the guys in France have huge success with that. But do you think it will become cheaper? Let's talk about a little bit money. Do you think that the technology you showed us now will get cheaper because it's all about money at the end? And it has been, especially the data augmented pictures have been very expensive in the past.
Yeah, I would say it will over time. As it's looking right now, there's actually kind of a funny situation where things are getting more expensive. It depends on so many things that are into play. It's anything from what are the hardware prices looking like? We sell a software where you can do these things, and it is if you look at the price points, it is significantly more affordable than buying dedicated hardware. There's also the it's evergreen. You just update the software and it keeps getting more modern, whereas a hardware has a shelf life and then it's outdated. But also it interacts with the hardware prices. So that what we've seen this spring when it comes to RAM costs has not been it's been less than great. We've had several of those things happen in the technology industry before, but in the longer run, for sure, everything becomes more open. There's open models for image recognition that can be just plugged into our software, for example. So there's new ways of doing these things also emerging. So the competition becomes fiercer, which also drives costs down. So I would say I would definitely expect it to be, and as long as you're not looking at using for example, if you look at video production, there's a hardware defined and a software defined paradigm. Those two coexist, so not one is not replacing the other, but the hardware, there's been a lot of investment in hardware, which does cost a lot. And for some, like the largest productions in the world, you need to use often you need to use a lot of hardware. But even for if you look at our case here in Sweden, where the Winter Olympics were produced last time, we were involved with our software, and it was done considerably cheaper and more flexible as to where how you can scale it out, etc. So long answer, but I'd say yes over time, definitely worth looking into, and not what is it called? Discarding it because of cost issues, basically.
It's a good answer for all our CEOs watching. So thank you very much, Daniel. And Harold is so kind to give us an update, and he just wrote there right now, no questions further on. So yeah, thank you so much, Daniel. Maybe there's a question at the very end, and we'll come back to you. Now it's time for Martin Wiklund, founder and CEO of Sportswik. And Martin, you were already mentioned by Daniel, so he's really proud to work together with you. And we will have now a short summary of what you think about fan engagement, community, and mobile-first sports consumption.
Thank you, Torsten. Yes, my name is Martin. I have a background as a professional football player. I got to play against Zlatan Ibrahimovic and the Fon and Cannavaro and some of those guys. They were a little bit better than me, though. I always make sure to mention. Then I've been the vice chairman of my old professional club in the boards of community clubs and also coaching people. So I'm going to try to give a little bit of a different angle to horse racing and community building and what we've done in other sports, in football, in floorball, handball, volleyball, ice hockey, different sports. But we believe that there might be things that are generic and relevant for the horse racing industry as well. So I will go ahead and share my screen. There we go. Can you see it okay now? Perfect. So I'll start in this end. So Sportswik, we have an app and media platform that we white label and license primarily to national associations, but also leagues and other governing bodies and rights holders. So we white label and license this where the licensee owns all the content, the user data, and the end user relation. And a lot of conferences around the world that deals with different types of sports, there's people on stage saying content is king and data is gold. And now it's time for us in sports to start taking control over this. And everyone nods and thinks, yes, that's true. But how do you really do that? Because usually what it looks like in different sports is there's some live scores, statistics, standings, results in an app or on a website. But most of the digital engagement takes place in other channels that were not created specifically for this sport, and where both content producers and content consumers have a hard time finding that content because it's mixed up with so many other things. So what we have done is to take all the aspects of covering sports, live score stats and standings, streaming, commenting, sharing, pictures, videos, interviews, match reports, fan engagement, and put that into sport-specific platforms. We started off with the Sportswik platform, which was, we could use the Facebook for sports analogy when we started, because it was easier to understand how do you enable user-generated coverage. And our mission has from the very beginning been to democratize sports media coverage. Usually, if you think about competitions as a pyramid, you have the top flight, the top events, the top leagues and games. They have all the coverage they need. TV companies, commentators, all the focus is there, and there's a lot of money there. But for the rest, the amateur, the youth, the kids, there's usually nothing. And also, from a commercial perspective, what it looks like when all that other engagement takes place on other platforms, this is what it looks like from a commercial perspective. The only ones making money out of content ending up and being consumed on the big social platforms are the social platforms. They take all the money and hardly have given any money back. We sit now with the head of commercial of some of the biggest football federations in the world, who under the pressure from sponsors and partners, Nike, Adidas, Coca-Cola, all these guys are very clear. They're no longer happy with just LED screens in the arenas and VIP and hospitality at the events. They want digital engagement, a way to communicate with the audience, and eventually turn them into customers. Otherwise, they're not renewing, definitely not giving the 10% increase they want for the new rights cycle. And even if you have 10 million followers on Facebook, you have no idea who they are. Are they players, parents, fans, troll accounts? You have no idea. And if you post something there, their algorithms determines, will it be shown to 20,000 people, 200,000 people, or 2 million? You have no idea. So under this pressure from sponsors and partners that have been financing their whole operations, they take their sponsors' money to buy advertising from Meta, the owners of Facebook and Instagram, to reach their own community who is there because we gave away the content for free for the last 10, 15 years. This is insane. And we're super happy and proud that we've been able to divert the content, traffic, and digital engagement into rights holder-owned platforms where they monetize this with the sponsors and partners. On average, our federation customers makes €4 per yearly active user. €3 from an innovative digital marketing engine that allows brands to become an integrated part of the user experience. You can say that, you can call it an ad server, advertising server. But when you think about that, you think about ugly Google banners and annoying screen takeovers that ruins the user experience. But we recently did a benchmark with another big European football federation who had a lot of complaints from their users and very low app ratings because of their ads. And in the Min Football app, Min Football is the name of the Swedish Football Association instance of the Sportswik platform. We had 254% more ad impressions per user and 0 complaints. because we do it in a different way. Allow the brand to become an integrated part of the user experience and ideally enhance the user experience. Then it doesn't feel like advertising, and the brand gets, an example can be, as a brand, you want to be associated when people are happy. That feeling is what you want to be associated with. In football, you're never as happy as when your favorite team scores a goal. So the goal is delivered with confetti and cheering in the app, but only for the people who cheer for the team who just scored, not for the others. But €4 per yearly active users, €3 from sponsors and partners advertising, and €1 from end user payments for access to live streamed content. The strategic goals were, this is a case study that we've done and we presented in various conferences together with the Swedish FA, but also has been used by UEFA as a role model for how to build digital platforms. So boost coverage and engagement around amateur and youth. How do you make people care about the grassroots? How do you enable digital revenue streams, new digital revenue streams from sponsors and partners? How do you get modern communication towards them, where you can audience target that information to reach who is if I would use horse racing, who is the trainers, who is the riders, who are the parents, who is the family, and who is the fans? To audience target this that you cannot do on the big social platform because you don't know who people are and you don't own that data to understand it. So taking control over users and data by having a platform that you own yourself. And in Sweden now, these are numbers from 2025, but right now we're 10,028,000 registered users in the Min football app. So 10% of the Swedish population, not 10% of the football community, but 10% of the total population in the country has registered an account in this app using their mobile phone number and a 6-digit code. They connect to their own roles as players, coaches, parents, so you know who people are. And 20%, because on youth and amateur sports, there are no, you can't afford a TV production team. And you can't afford a data team that provides statistics. But what you have is passionate people. People who care about their son or daughter and their sports. And here we are very loyal. We're willing to help out and pay, especially if it contributes the team or the club or our own children. 20% of those 1 million plus users are content contributors. So people use this app to shoot pictures, videos, report on goals, put rosters, lineups, live stream game, tag highlights. They do it and they're not paid anything. They do it because they care about their team and this game. And 20% content contributors is a very high number. Most often, 90+% are just consumers. When it comes to the traffic, the Swedish FA official website, svenskfotboll.se, has been around for 30 years. 24 district associations have all their content, their information, their news, their rules, the stats, the standings. They had 94 million page views last year. In the Min football app, there was almost 2.5 billion page views. So 25x the traffic. And this is not, following the top levels. It is following the amateur and youth, because in that grassroots section, there's an enormous crowd. And these people are also the ones who trickle up and care about the top as well. The number down right here, 307 average visitors per game. At the fields, maybe the average number of visitors is 15, 20, something like that. In the app, from 7-year-olds to the the amateur semi-pros that is covered in this app, there's a 307 average visitors per game. So the multiplying of the sport compared to 20 people at a field to 307 people following it digitally with zero costs for content production because the users create the content themselves. Last year, 86% of all youth and adult games had some kind of user-generated content in the Min Football app. When we founded Sportswik, we've had the same mission to democratize sports media coverage since we started. Tried it in different angles, but it's almost like we're now, with the 86% of all scheduled games having some coverage, it's almost mission complete in Sweden. 14,000 games were live streamed as well. And as I mentioned, there's quite a lot of revenue being generated on this. Just quickly give you a glimpse so that you get an idea of what is this. There's an mobile apps and a responsive web application. I'm trying to just make it the right size. People connect to their roles. I'm the coach of Umeå IK girls born 2012. Follow other teams that I am interested in, all the way from the national teams down to youth. Based on the roles and the following, all users gets a personalized home feed, working just like a Facebook or Instagram feed. There's a communication module I mentioned where you can audience target content and say, I want this post to show up for all coaches in boys teams and age category youth in the Gothenburg district. Put it in their feed and send a push. They're in the app 20 times a month, on average 12 minutes per session. The main thing you do is you follow games. Sweden versus Tunisia, 38,000 people were following this game. I chose this one, not the Netherlands game where we lost 5-1. Just there's happier faces in this game feed. 38,000 fans are commenting and sharing. Someone from the communication department of the Swedish FA does minute-by-minute updates, commenting all the time what's happening, putting in the goals and substitutions and stuff. You have the lineups, the player profiles, the game facts, and the league table. But this you get, probably in 50 different apps for the World Championships. The cool thing with this platform, it enables this from any game on any level. This is under 18 boys. 569 people are following the game. They were live streaming it with a VO camera, like an automated AI camera that automatically follows the game. They also had their minute-by-minute updates. Not a pro communication staff member, Elias Westergren, injured player, engaged parent who's been promoted to a team reporter role. Their fans are also commenting and sharing. They were tagging highlights live during the game. So they tag a highlight, and in 20 seconds, it shows up in the game feed with a replay, with a player profile picture, name of who scored, who assisted if there is assist. This I don't get from the English Premier League. I'm a big Liverpool fan. I don't get a push notification. I can watch the replay of the goal with player graphics within 20 seconds. But it can be enabled on any grassroots level game using this app and a few buttons clicked. And this information is then automatically aggregated onto media sites. Let's take this team, women's 4th, 5th division. Let's take this on. A media site is generated for every competition, combining competition management data with user-generated content. The play page, all the teams have their own media sites. All the players have their own player cards with their stats, all their highlights that they've been tagged in. And this is all automated because there cannot be any editing needs. So people use their smartphones, technology that they pay themselves, their own data plans to live stream, just they can put the smartphone on a tripod and stream. In the pandemic, we had 15,000 different parents streaming 24,387 games back to family and friends. So people create content out of their passion for their team and their game. Super simply to click. Anyone can do it. No editing is needed because there's a smart media platform putting this together. And it generates massive amounts of money because this digital traffic, this engagement is a very, very valuable currency. And having that data about all the people and having them in an app 20 times a month, 12 minutes on average, that is that gold that the people at the conferences are talking about. That's my part, and let's kick it off for Adam or Torsten. Take it away, however you want to do it.
Maybe there are a few questions. First of all, congrats, really great idea and how you do that. Especially if you talk about horse racing, it's kind of a fringe sport, so that might be more than interesting also. How long did it take? Months, years, whatsoever, to get Facebook, YouTube out of business and get the people on their own platform?
It depends a little bit on the data set that the governing body already has. If there are contact information for the players, the coaches, parents, then they get personalized invites and come in immediately. And usually we say they don't have to stop using the other channels, but it kind of gets into this platform automatically because the information about an upcoming game, a roster that has been published, a lineup or something, or a goal has been scored, that automatically drags people in. Push notifications, the red dots on the start pages of our smartphones and the push notifications determine so much how we spend our time these days. We've spent 13 years and 160,000 hours building this platform and made so many mistakes during the years. But now when we do it, we launched a platform in Canada called My Soccer with Ontario Soccer. And the numbers they have for the first season is like 5x what we had in Sweden the first season. So it's depending on the data set and what it looks like. But you need to have something. And that's where also, video content is great. But when we look at a live game, in Switzerland, where we do floorball from the youth to the pro league, streaming was for free for the first 2 years. And we had an average of 4,000 visitors per game in the app. But even though it was for free, only 1,000 had watched the live stream of the replay. And you could ask why. They're in there. There's a video player right there. But people don't have time to watch a full game, 90 minutes. So they come in for highlights, they go out, but you should not underestimate the value of data and statistics. People spend a lot of time. And the highlight feature here, we see traffic from young people watching highlights originating from the player profiles of their friends, opponents, the team that they're going to play. Now, this is grassroots, kids, youth, but enormous traffic from young people watching highlights originating from player profiles. And I think these type of things, to not just think about the race, events, that's something that we've seen in a lot of organizations, being all event driven and putting all the resources in there to have these big events. But what's going on between those events? That is eventually how you grow a sport, to make people care outside of only those big events. How do you make them care about the youth race going on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday around the world or around the country? And how do you relate to that? And also, when you start covering these levels, new people come in. The mom or dad or grandma and grandpa who, most of those 1 million people in this Swedish Football FA app are not generically football interest. They wouldn't buy something to watch the Premier League or the national team, but about their sons and daughters and grandchildren, they care a lot. And if they can buy something using the fan engagement features that benefits their team or their son or daughter, they will pay.
I see. And one thing, what we heard earlier from Daniel, as we talked about the cost, was really interesting. You said it was quite easy to make out of the users, the registered users, content creators for free.
Yes.
So it comes automatically that the people are sending pictures or something like that, or you invite the people and say, well, you were there, please send us.
Yeah, so they're at the game. They go into the game, and they just, if they want to take a picture, they shoot a picture, take with camera. I'll shoot it, I can crop it if I want to, write a caption if I want to, and save. And it's instantly in the feed.
Okay.
That's how simple it is. No sending to someone, no tags, hashtags on social media about what race it is or what event it is, because it's done inside this context. If they're going to live stream, they just press this one, say stream live. This was a pay-per-view game, so I put the price on it, and then I just go. Check my network connectivity. Next, I press a button, and the Vindral system from that, now I'm streaming live.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So every parent can stream their son's or daughter's race. Or I heard you talked about this, following your horse. Looking at what does it look like? You need one person with some kind of engagement that walks around with their own smartphone. And there can be 15 people doing it at the same time. Multi-angle can be multi-angle with 25 different people streaming with their smartphone. It's as simple as that. And it's a 1 second latency with the Vindral service in the game. So that's how easy it is. Sorry, I'm taking up a lot of time. We need to make sure that Adam gets his airtime as well.
No, I think it's very interesting. Thank you for that. Are there any questions beside the ones I had? And if there are, please let us know. Alt is watching and I'm watching too. But I think there are no questions right now. And if there are not, then thank you very, very much, Martin. And Adam, thank you for having you. Adam Binns, founder and principal consultant of AB Apex Advisory, Media Reinvention and Digital Audience Strategy. We're really interested to hear you. And go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. Fascinating, both of those presentations. I've learned an enormous amount. This presentation is very much informed by my personal experiences of racing and sport generally here in the UK, but I hope it resonates for all of you. For much of racing's history, the sport has benefited from what I've called inherited behavior. Followers of racing were introduced by family, by newspapers, by Saturday television, racecourses, betting shops, or even a sweepstake. Once people were in, racing could be very sticky. That was a word that Martin used too around grassroots. It became a habit, and sometimes a habit for life. That habit loop still exists, but it's not replenishing itself in the same way as it did previously. Younger audiences have more choice, fewer passive routes into the sport, and less patience with products that are difficult to understand. So the challenge is not simply to put racing on more screens or to show them more angles. It's to rebuild the journey by which someone discovers racing, understands it, enjoys it, participates in it, and ultimately comes back. One of the risks in racing is that we often talk about the audience as if it's one group. The committed racing fan, the high-frequency bettor, the once-a-year festival viewer, the international event viewer, the social-first viewer, and the complete newcomer. They're all very, very different customers. That matters because the same product doesn't work equally well for all of them. The expert wants depth, data, and form. The casual viewer wants story, personalities, and jeopardy. The bettor wants confidence, liquidity, and a reason to play. The new fan may need a creator, a community, or something in a game mechanic before they ever care about racing or a race card. If racing feels overwhelming, more volume may not create more value. Scarcity, signposting, the notifications that Martin talked about, and segmentation become part of a product strategy. So the question is not only how do we show more racing, it's how do we make racing easier to discover, easier to understand, easier to share, and easier to participate in. The route to the audience is different in every market. Drawing from my own experience in the UK, free-to-consumer broadcast exposure is still very important, ITV in our case. In MENA and international racing markets, premium event packaging, global distribution, and high production values can matter more than a weekly domestic habit. I also have a background now in Olympic sport. The problem is they're different again. Huge spikes of attention around the major championships, followed by long periods where the sport disappears from the mainstream view. But beneath those differences, the pressure is similar. Younger audiences are harder to reach through scheduled viewing. Social video has trained people to expect immediacy, personality, and explanation. If UK trends continue, by 2028, forecasts predict live linear TV, the blue bars that you can see on that chart, will decline by another 27% and will hardly be watched by anyone under 35. Every sport has to ask not only where the live event sits, but what surrounds it, before, during, and after. The UK data is useful as a case study, but the lesson from the behavioural direction is wider. Distribution alone is not the strategy. A sensitive but important point is that racing cannot assume that more output equals more engagement. The sport has huge volume of content, and for the committed customer, that can be part of the appeal. But for the casual viewer or the new fan, it can also simply be overwhelming. If everything is available all of the time, what is the moment that I'm supposed to care about? Racing has extraordinary ingredients: athletes, horses, owners, trainers, jockeys, national pride, risk, jeopardy, data, and emotion. Olympic sports have similar issue. They often have powerful stories and elite performance, but outside of their major event windows, casual audiences need help understanding who to care about and why. Racing can look complex before it looks exciting. The task is to turn that complexity into a narrative. What is the story of this race, this horse, this jockey, this rivalry, this pool, or this meeting? The newer creator-led sports rights deals are important because they show that rights holders are starting to create a creator environment that is more than just simple promotion. They are becoming alternative distributors, commentators, and community hosts. The point is not that a creator replaces the main broadcast. The point is that they can translate the sport for an audience that may never choose a traditional racing channel or a formal world feed. The evidence from sports such as football, NFL, and rugby is that this works best when the creator adds something: personality, explanation, humor, local language, community, or indeed a watch-along format. Simply putting the same pictures somewhere else is less powerful. For racing, that is a very relevant lesson. A creator-led race day should not just be a simulcast. It should help people understand the card, follow the characters, learn the betting or pool mechanic, and feel part of a group watching together. If there's one model I could leave with members, it's this. Do not think in terms of a broadcast plan. It's my world. It's what I did. Think in terms of an attention stack, or perhaps more accurately, an engagement stack. The first layer is reach. How do people discover the event? Through broadcast, streaming, YouTube, TikTok, creators, operator channels, or rights owner channels. The second is experience. Once they arrive, is the product fast, clear, data-rich, and easy to understand? This is where low latency, alternative feeds, commentary, data visualization really matter. The third is participation. What can the customer do? Predict, play, join, share. That's where pools, fantasy, community syndicates, and play-along formats become powerful. The fourth is obviously retention. How do we bring them back? Through CRM, alerts, loyalty, membership, and community. Broadcast creates reach. Creators create translation. Data creates understanding. Pools create participation. And communities create repeat behavior. This stack will look different in each market, but the principle is the same. Build the path from discovery to habit. I would finish with 3 practical experiments that can be adapted to different markets. First, run a creator-led race day as a pilot. Pick one meeting, one market, one creator, and one native platform. Don't just hand over the feed. Build a watch-along that explains the story and begins to create a community. Second, create a social-first pool betting challenge. This could be a jackpot journey, a PlaySpot-style team game, a predictor, a community syndicate, or a beat the expert mechanic. The important point is to make participation simple and shareable. Third, build a major event style storytelling calendar. Use the biggest race days as tentpoles, or, as in Martin's example, the smallest too. Tell the stories that resonate with people before, during, and after. The horses, the jockeys, trainers, rivalries, national angles, data explainers, preparation, and behind-the-scenes access. Don't be afraid to innovate. The format, the schedule, whatever it might be, the world's biggest sports are relying on new concepts in order to evolve and grow. The market model will differ by country, but the job is the same everywhere. Make racing easier to discover, easier to understand, easier to share, and easier to participate in. Thank you. Hopefully that was helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you, Adam. And I'm pretty sure we have a few questions now also from the audience. There's one question for Martin we'll take later. Just to mention it, that the one asking is knowing that we will answer this question. But Martin, Adam, sorry, I think you talked about creators. Do you think, because we have in Germany, it's our market, and therefore I can speak for that, we thought about this idea 2 years ago, and we started to have creators outside of the sport coming on the racetrack, telling the people how beautiful the day is and so on. Do you think that's the most important thing, or do you think take someone out of the sport who knows each and everything, who can explain it, and he's got not the glasses of the sport, let's say it like that, if you know what I mean? What is better?
I don't think the answer to that is better. They just speak to different communities and to different audiences. So certainly a lot of the experiments with the more social fan engaged viewer have revolved around taking people outside of their comfort zone, creators who might be into fashion or music or whatever it might be, and taking them to the race day, because that's a similar lens through which a lot of first time fans engage with the sport. And that community is relevant and it's important. I think for the purposes of perhaps this group and generating more traction and engagement with pool betting opportunities, it's probably going to be a more sophisticated creator who understands more about sport and more about the economics of transacting with it. So I think there is no one size fits all silver bullet answer to this. It depends upon exactly what you're trying to do and you're trying to achieve with your market segment. But then also, from Martin and Daniel's perspective, what are the products that back that up? Once you've got that engagement and communities are involved, the products that they're going to engage with to take that through on the journey.
Okay. And one thing which was very interesting for me, that you told us the best idea would be just to take main events. Don't think to put everything on the screen. Do you have a number for us? Let's say if we have a UK market, is it Royal Ascot and 5 more, or is there any number?
Again, I think it depends upon the audience. So one of the things that we always worked extensively around was packaging, so that you were creating a narrative across a package of events. So that could be the very biggest international events. It could be the biggest domestic events. Obviously, in the UK, there's a segment flat racing and jumps racing. But I think what's absolutely is that scarcity has significant value. That making people understand that this is something that's worth their time, worth engaging with, but has a story behind it, absolutely critical. But at the other end of it can also work in reverse. From Martin's perspective, growing an audience from 50 watching a grassroots match to 300, 500 watching it via a digital platform is also a success. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it's mutually exclusive, but you just need to know what you're packaging, how you're presenting it.
Yeah, I think it comes along. I talked to one of the guys from Sky last year, and he told me the main thing he wanted to have is nearly every month one event that we have it year long, and then a package for that. So that's exactly what you said here.
If I can add something to that, Adam, so I think personalization is key. Today, like one size fits all is super hard to achieve. In all aspects, how many events should you have, and how many streams should you have, and how many angles. People are so different, and the things that the big social platforms has done really well is personalization, to adapt and make things relevant. So I would suggest to create personas, which are profiles of different types of people who, and I think Adam had a very good, list of those different types of personas around horse racing, and think about how can we create something that fits their persona, and not exclude anyone, and not, give everything the same, but allow for those people to have their own personal experience that meets their needs, which is easier said than done. But the only way to do it is to get data about who they are, what they care about, and what they want, because people coming in and setting preferences, do you do that the first time or you don't, and then you get nothing and you never change it. So this data needs to be done based on behavior. So that's what we do in our platform. Every night, the platform calculates every user's favorite club, favorite team, what kind of role they have, are they a content contributor? And that data can even be used to personalize commercial messages from a sponsor and a partner, which means they will speak with so much more relevance to the users as well. So I think based on that, I think defining the personas and personalizing is a key, regardless of channel and what they're going to get.
Yeah, and what you said, Adam presented us a very good summary of all the different types of people engaged. Yeah. Martin, if you are now ready for the question, then I just ask you. Someone wrote from the Q&A platform that your platform looks incredible. How did you overcome the challenge of fragmentation between leagues and ownership to bring everyone on board? Ultimately, this relies on the goodwill of parents and engaged fans. Is there a mechanism to reward contributors?
Yeah, so how do you get all the people in? When we had the Sportswik platform, like we create our own brand, this was a big challenge. Because if you only pick up a team here and there around the world, we had some leagues in the UK and some in Sweden and different sports, it was challenging to get all of them in. But by going through this white label product mapping where we worked with the governing bodies, then it became a lot easier to reach more people at the same time and get a wider ecosystem coming in. So that is one thing that is important. That how do you get these people in? But at the end of the day, there was no reward mechanisms for content contributors, because the reward that they get is that their son, daughters, or the team that they're coaching are getting some kind of exposure, and in this case, the same type of exposure as the pro level game would get. So that was the driving force, and they were creating this already. And I bet the racing grassroots people are doing that as well. The only thing is that they're doing that on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or somewhere else, outside of the scope of the governing bodies or the organizations. And the only ones who make money are those social media platforms. So it was basically taking behavior that people was already doing, but getting them into a platform that was tailor-made for those needs that these different personas had. And that was the way. And nowadays, it is a revenue generator. The Mean Football platform was nominated for a UEFA Grow Award for best stakeholder support solution, because the teams make money. They get a rev share on live streaming revenues. The clubs make money because they have sponsorship activations. District associations make money, and the Central Federation makes money. And that's another thing. You said it yourself. Money talks, bullshit walks. At the end of the day, that's how it works. So, but the passion and engagement from the people around their sports is very strong, and that the cost of getting that engagement is zero if you give them something that they want and need.
Okay. Thank you for that, Adam. One thing was a little bit shocking for a few guys from us, I think, was you showed 2028. There will be really less, not to say no one, under the age of 35. That's quite shocking. And there's one theme we didn't talk about, is the health of the horses. And I think it becomes worldwide in the different jurisdictions a very important theme. Do you think we should mention that a little bit more to get people who are not involved in the business a little deeper into it?
I think it's a very sensitive subject. It varies by market. Clearly, it's part of the narrative storytelling. One of the things often doesn't come across is how much horse welfare is just absolutely central just to every day-to-day activities within the industry. How passionate everybody is about the health and well-being of the athletes, because that's what they are. And that's certainly a narrative element that should be woven in within context. There isn't enough understanding of what goes on behind the scenes, but that's not going to be relevant to the entire audience to around segmentation and personalization. Understanding which content resonates with which market segments is critical. I think around the transition away from TV, it's there in terms of YouTube very recently, okay, in terms of consumption. Very young children still watch and engage with linear TV, and then it drops away as they move into the teenage years, and then largely it doesn't come back until the much older cohort. How that will then happen in the next 10, 15 years time is ultimately the strategy that everybody's wrestling.
Okay. So last chance for the Q&A. If there are any more questions for Adam, please feel free to ask. There are until now no questions. Howard is also checking, I think. Yeah. If there are not, I think I want to thank all three of you, and of course also Ylva and the WoTA team, Florence, for example, and Harald, for the organization of this great webinar. I think we heard a lot of information, very useful for each jurisdiction of the world. What I mentioned, if someone wants to have the handouts or maybe the contact information, Ylva, I'm pretty sure we can assist. And Ylva told us already at the beginning of this webinar, there will be a few webinars showing up. One of the next one will be the situation in the US and the market there, which is also very interesting, one of the biggest markets in the world, and we all can learn a lot from them. So we don't have, Ylva, if I'm correct, the real date until now, but it will be in the next few weeks.
Yes, it will be soon after the vacation. So much is happening in US with the poly markets and how horse racing is going to find its place there. I think for me, very, very interesting. And during the World Cup in US, you constantly see these commercials popping up. So we will come back with an exact date very soon.
Very good. I'm looking forward that races over 3,000 meters will stop 2 times to have a drink break, and it's powered by Powerade, of course. So looking forward to it. So one thing at last, I think Florence wants to tell everyone that we will have this webinar on YouTube. So make sure that you are the one who clicks on YouTube and get the abo for the channel. And thank you so far. And Ylva, I think we're looking forward to a few more of the webinars.
Yes. Thank you very much, everyone.
Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thank you.